who's planned or not to? Yeah, exactly.
So my name's Alexandra, and this year I founded an organisation, Cruelty Labs Australia, with the goal of ending the use of animals in science in Australia. So for the last 3 years I've been working with animals in Australia and Africa, and I've been studying full-time towards becoming a vet. I went vegan around 18 months ago after doing a surgery on a really big dog and sort of freaking out at the blood smell and how much it looked like the steaks I was eating every night. And yeah, so I've always felt that we're living right now in an age of voyeurism where it's not the most deserving people or the most intelligent or the most educated who are getting a voice and getting a platform. It's the most entertaining. And I'm not trying to tackle consumerism or turn the public into happy, well-rounded people with high self-esteem. I want people to stop killing animals as quickly as possible and sort of doing it by any means. So this year I started doing activism, and I'm not talented or particularly intelligent, and my attention span is incredibly short. I don't have lots of money, resources, and I have pretty much no people skills. So the only time I've ever really felt happy throughout my life is being around animals, and I've always had a much stronger connection to them than people. When I was about 4, I used to run away a lot, and they would find me like 3 k's away underneath the Clydesdales trying to reach up and scratch their bellies, and I would sleep in our dog kennels and stuff. I think I even ate dog food a couple of times. Like, I do have a couple of memories of that. So I used to have this strong emotional connection to animals, but unfortunately because of the work I do, I now can't stand being around them. It's triggering because I've seen so much death that even rescued animals remind me of the millions that we haven't been able to help. So very recently I successfully brought Australian lab animals under the spotlight with a video that I filmed in about half an hour and uploaded that morning on my iPhone. And there was a last minute Facebook event about 4 days before, and it was really more about strategic handling of media from, I guess, my perspective on what like really sells, I don't know, a good story. So I'm going to show the video. Hey fam, today I have to tell you about issues that I've been having with my university in regard to animal cruelty. I moved to Geelong to go to Deakin, and I love my university. I can't tell you how many professors and scientists, amazing people who are so inspirational that I've met, have told me that Australia used to be really bad, but now things have changed. So the latest available statistics from Humane Research Australia say that the use of animals in science has been increasing for the last 11 years of available data that we have. And some of the things on their website is pretty disturbing. I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm going to link it. The most recent year that we have data for is 2014, and almost 7 million animals were killed in Australia. Over 900,000 animals were killed in science just in Victoria. How can we criticize doctors and scientists when the way we teach students is that cruelty is okay? Is the ends are going to justify the means? You might publish research that will change the world, so therefore all the animals you killed leading up to that point, you know, that's okay. That then carries on later in their careers. Why would you expect someone to act ethically and humanely when throughout their training they've been taught that violence is okay? So how do we compare with the rest of the world? Nearly 98% of US medical schools are cruelty-free. There are surgeons graduating from some of the biggest schools, including Ivy League, who have never cut up an animal. They're not killing all their patients. I've wanted to move away from biological science because I don't want to support it, I don't want to be around it, I don't want to associate with it. And I know lots of other people who have turned away from their dreams because they felt like it was wrong. I'm going to link below some of the alternatives that are available just to show why I guess I'm so angry at what's happened. This stuff is amazing. Like, I did quite well in my first year and I would have done way better. The thing that really upset me, I'm just going to read it to you. Happy to meet with you to watch your 10-minute presentation, but I doubt you will sway my opinion. We have been very conscientious here at Deakin with dealing with animals in science. We have changed many of our practices, and I am very comfortable with our current ethical stance. I think your characterization of violence in science is an old world view of current animal welfare practices, and I would be interested to know which universities have made the switch. Whilst many things in life can be replicated through computer simulations, there are also many things that cannot. This is why so many people undertake international travel instead of just watching documentaries, as there are some things in life that need to be experienced in order to have the full effect. The fact that you could compare their suffering and their life with overseas travel makes me sick, and I don't think it can fall on our shoulders to fix what's happening at our university, because this is a problem that affects the whole of Geelong. I need your help. At my meeting with Deakin, I'm going to show Thousand Eyes. I'm also going to demo the software that's been offered by Peter. I'm going to speak about research. This is not about animal welfare. It's not about making their lives slightly better or giving them an anesthetic. It's about saying that it's unnecessary. We no longer need to use animals. It's not progressive enough. In Australia, we're lagging behind. Okay, so Tim Ferriss said that the success of an individual is directly proportional to the number of uncomfortable conversations they're willing to have. And I've always just loved this quote, and I think it's amazing. I think that I'm not special at all. If I can do this, so can you. And I think people get sucked into thinking that really successful activists have all these skills or resources or money that they lack, and really everyone's sort of winging it. In my opinion, if you think ending the suffering of animals is worth more than your job, personal safety or degree, then I can give you some tips to help create a media frenzy around your cause. So I'm going to tell you a bit about my organisation and what we do and what I've learned in the last couple of months. Okay, so in Australia about 7 million animals are used each year, and yet most Australians think we don't use animals here. The numbers have actually been increasing for the last 11 years, despite other countries actively moving away from using animals in research. So several months ago, at Deakin in Victoria, where I'm studying science, I requested a meeting and I wanted to demo alternatives to dissection that were being offered free of charge, and I guess start a conversation about their use of animals in training and their PhD students there. And yeah, the software was all being offered for free. So I kind of knew how they were going to handle it, because when I had brought up dissection with my professors in the past, I had pretty much just been met with very kind of dismissive, rude, like vegan jokes, like that whole shebang. So over email, they handled it really badly, and that was kind of the first opportunity. So this video that I showed just before is a shortened version, but it was really based around that they had compared animal dissection to like overseas travel, like, oh, going to Hawaii is way better than looking at a photo of palm trees on a beach. So like the way they kind of joked about it, and I used that to make them look really bad. So also I filmed this on my iPhone, and I wanted to give you guys some examples of some really good DIY camera tripods if you don't have any sort of equipment. So the first one is actually like a giant peg that I just sort of pegged to my phone, but then this is what I would more recommend. You just get every lamp you have in your house, put them in one place, and then you like sticky tape your phone sort of in the middle. And yeah, that works really good. As long as the lighting's really good, honestly, you can make a really high quality video if you have any kind of smartphone. Sorry. Okay, if you're willing to put aside your pride and let your videos increase the reach of another organisation's page, like their likes, their interaction, their donations, you can make a video go really far. I think a lot of people get really hung up on wanting to get their name out there or their organisation out there, and that's why things sort of like fail, because a lot of organisations that do have a really big reach are quite sort of welfareist, and I don't know, anyway, a lot of people just won't do that, but I didn't really care. I contacted like everyone I could think of. So the video went up on Peter Australia's page, and it went viral in a couple of hours. I created a Facebook event for a protest at my uni the day of the meeting, and it just sort of freaked them out because they cancelled it like on the day straight away. And then I made a second video about, oh my god, Deakin cancelled the meeting, and then they did another post about, oh, they're not even willing to whatever. So anyway, it kind of just got really out of control. It was really cool. So that was when the dean first called me, and I have to say, like, in my scientific career, when I had imagined meeting the dean of my uni, I thought it would be more of like that I'd done some really amazing research, and it was like that epic moment. But I had a bunch of lambs in my lap because I was doing like lamb rescue, and they were all carrying on, and he was just like, yeah, full trying to alpha me, and it was kind of whatever. Anyway, so his name's Trevor Day, sorry. he's really afraid of activists and he thinks vegans are destroying the planet. I asked him if he'd do a live interview, like a live stream interview, and he refused because he said people would put car bombs under his car and like go to his house and smash all his windows, and yeah, that started going on about all the vegan stuff, which was never something that I'd brought up, and saying like if everyone goes vegan then we have to cut down all the forests in order to grow plants to feed them. So he's pretty smart. He's got a lot of letters. He's got a lot of letters after his name, but anyway. So he set up a meeting and I organised a second public protest for that day. So this is sort of just my opinion on what makes something into a really good story that media want to use. So for anyone to listen to about animal rights, I believe you need to create a genuine or perceived risk to your own well-being. I didn't sell myself as a young animal rights activist. I sold myself as a middle-class, educated, white female science student who was being threatened by a large, scary, sort of patriarchal corporation for trying to save animals. This is... Sorry, I'm still drinking water. This brings me to my first piece of practical advice. And yeah, have you ever seen a politician in black skinny jeans and a hoodie? People are fickle, selfish, and materialistic, and they only trust new information when it comes from a source that has authority, from a person that they might need one day. And this isn't a conscious decision. This is like people just, they trust in someone who looks like they're socially higher than them. I always presented myself publicly in an extremely conservative and professional way, emphasizing my studies. So science degree sort of equals high intelligence, financial security. In reality, I never finished high school and I can't tell you how many unemployed graduates I know who are drowning in debt. If you want to get really manipulative with it, blue inspires trust and gives you authority. Black makes you seem more powerful, and red inspires action in your viewer. Even if you go home and watch the news tonight, you'll notice like all these things. So if you're trying to raise money or if you want people to like sign a petition or whatever, use like red. And if you're trying to give someone new information and make them believe you, then definitely, yeah, I wore a lot of like blue and white and very minimal makeup and sort of, sorry, I'm dying. Okay. If you can cry on camera, that's really good, but I don't personally like think you should go there because it can come across as a little bit too much of a victim. I think being authentic is a lot more powerful, like not trying to be perfect. I think people relate to an underdog, and if you can show how passionate you are about the cause, that can inspire passion in other people, especially if you seem a bit like a noob and a bit rough around the edges, and that it's more likely that other people will be like, yeah, I can do that as well. So people are also more likely to give you funding if they see you're risking everything that they themselves are fearful of losing. It plants a seed that forces the question, why would someone risk so much for animals? Keep everything you do spicy and be attention seeking. About half of the shares, comments and likes for your event or page will be from people with no exposure to animal rights who are basically there for the free entertainment. If you've ever seen like when there's a car crash and every single car going past slows down because they want to get a good look, that's pretty much like the idea. So this is obviously a single issue campaign, and I feel like if you're running a single issue campaign, you're in a unique position to reach people who would never otherwise have any exposure to veganism and to like the abolitionist kind of way of life. So I like to think of it as what you're doing is leaving a trail of like exciting breadcrumbs down a path that there's like a trap at the end where the person clicks on a video that kind of scars them and forces them to reevaluate their life choices. And that person could be the next really great activist, because the way I feel about it is like, I've only been vegan like 18 months, I've been doing activism like, I don't know, less than a year, and you don't know. Like I went from being like meat eating, fur wearing, like, oh my god, I love animals, I'm gonna be a vet, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know who's gonna be whatever. So, I made the event less than a week before the meeting, and I once again reached out to Peter and others to gain some traction online. I gave any interviews with media, no matter how small, and I sort of used this attention to like climb my way up the mainstream media food chain. The Age put my video up on the Fairfax media site, and at that point I lost track of how many places it existed. I don't know if I said this before, but people are not going to want to share it, they're going to want to upload it themselves. So if you're good with that, like my personal YouTube channel, the video has like 1,000 views, but because it was on so many different platforms, it was like, I mean, I don't even know at this point. So,
Can I ask how you provided it to them?
I basically just contacted a ton of people and was like, are you willing to share this video that I've made, and this is who I am and this is what I'm doing, and you can directly, and because it became sort of a good story, then more and more people started doing it because just for clickbait basically. So all media are going to say that they are only going to do it if you give them an exclusive, but I personally think if you make your story good enough, they will still run it, and don't be sucked into feeling guilty or like the emotional manipulation. So I recommend having people around you who are really level-headed, because it's super stressful when, it was not a fun time. So all journalists do the psychological stuff really well, and it can sometimes feel like you've ruined a great opportunity, but if you can hold your ground, I promise it will pay off. Don't be too easy to contact. So I would put my phone on airplane mode for like half the day, and then when I check my phone I'd have like 50 missed calls, and I would read the messages that they've been leaving, and it would start off as, oh hey, just wanted to have a chat or whatever, and then it would be like, send us your address, we've got a photographer on the way, because like they can sort of, like people want what they can't have. It's kind of, I don't know, whatever. I just think like don't be too easy, because then it makes them think no one else wants the story either, and then they're like, oh, do we really want it, type of thing. So also like, don't be afraid to tell media you're talking to other media. Put them on hold, say you'll call back in 5 minutes, call them back in like an hour. Be polite, professional, and begin building lifelong working relationships. So I was never rude about it. I was always like, sorry, I'm just so busy, so many people are calling, you know what I mean? Like, which, I mean, by the end that was the reality, but in the beginning I was totally exaggerating and pretty much just lying. Like, okay, so you're the prize, and I really believe that the public want to share stuff around. Like, they want to feel like they're a good person. Oh my god, did you see this thing? It's so outrageous, and like poor animals, and then like that makes them feel like they're a good person. So don't feel bad about like sort of asking people to share stuff, or kind of just trolling, like spamming or whatever, because whatever, it makes their day. So the key is to spark outrage and be as antagonistic as possible in everything you say and do, without kind of discrediting yourself, obviously. But like, I just said and did a lot of things that now I'm like, oh my god, I can't live with that. But it did sort of, it was fine. Every part of you is going to want to backpedal, and it will feel like you've started something too big and scary and your life is over. But I feel like that's just because we've been groomed from birth to obey and keep our heads down and fear people who are in a position of power over us. The only type of social authority that completely annihilates all others is moral authority, and every time you feel guilty, ask yourself how many times your professors have held a tiny innocent life in their hands and gone through the motions of causing extreme suffering and death before going home and kissing their wives and hugging their kids. So the protest had a turnout of less than 20 people, 30 if you include all the police, Deakin organised, and yet it made the front page of the biggest Australian newspaper and received widespread mainstream media attention. This was in Australia and internationally. So Trevor didn't wish to see the software, and instead spent over an hour breaking me down, trying to convince me I didn't have any support, and making sure I had no future as a scientist. He felt that Deakin was already a cruelty-free university and asked me to share that over my various social media platforms, which, I mean, I might eventually, but no, haven't so far. It was definitely an emotionally difficult situation, and in hindsight, I should have had posts like scheduled for afterwards, because I was in no position after what happened to like do all the social media stuff. So that was definitely like a big mistake. Like, I recommend do a post for like, depending on different outcomes, for like what could possibly happen, and have them just scheduled to go like at the end of that day, and even like have your different media releases done, because that was a really stressful thing, having to do so many interviews and like live interviews and stuff after such a sort of traumatic experience. Which is what they do with everyone, by the way. They get you alone in a room and just like make you think that you're a horrible person for a couple of hours. Like, it's pretty standard, I know now. Also, it's your legal right to take in a support person, even if they told me I wasn't allowed to, but you can. That person just can't speak, but they can sort of just sit there. So anyway, I would have done that. I should have done that. So I left uni recently, so the longer I've travelled down this road, the more I've uncovered, the more I've struggled to be around people and feel comfortable at a place where so many lives have been taken by people that I used to respect, and I really felt like I had great professional relationships with. The only way I've stayed sane is to tell myself that when I'm finished, everyone in Australia will know what animals are going through at the hands of people we have put on a pedestal. I feel we've allowed unis to self-regulate, and we've placed our trust in them, never asking for any kind of transparency, and I'm not sure why it's been allowed to get to the point it's at now. So over the 2 days following my meeting, I received almost 1,000 messages of support through social media, and some of these were from science, vet and med students around Australia who have since joined me. So we started off just in Victoria, but we've now expanded. So my organisation has a team of 30 ambassadors so far from Victorian universities, and we've just started accepting ambassadors from states outside, and we have a few from New South Wales. So all of us are vegan, and I think if Australian universities can't adapt to a new generation of compassionate professionals, then it's time for some restructuring of leadership in our institutions. We're including all animals in this fight, so it's live animals used in research, it's wastage, organs and body parts from slaughterhouses and knackeries, and animals bred and killed for dissection, as well as live animals, obviously, which is the sort of popular issue. I think it's time for universities to stop normalising industries and practices that are built on oppression, even if they're not personally funding it or causing it. They're still, I guess, they should be rejecting those behaviours. So most people sort of freak out at this point and start going on about cancer or their sick grandma. So I want to really get the perceived need for animal use in research out of the way. So we've cured multiple human diseases in other species, including AIDS and cancer, and this data does not translate. There's actually a growing understanding in the medical community that human medicine is being delayed in its progress due to the continued use of animal models. In Australia, we have financial incentives in place for using animals in research instead of an alternative. You're much more likely to win grants and win funding if you're using animals. Ethics committees are extremely disorganised, self-congratulatory, and they lack any real procedure. Most of the biggest unis in Australia have 4 or 5 ethics committees. None of them actually talk to each other about what they're doing, and they're basically just a rubber stamping operation. So despite using tax money to fund animal research, universities are secretive and dishonest when discussing their use of animals. And it's usually because they have this belief that people won't understand, or people won't understand the value of the research or how important it is, so it's better just not to tell them because they would probably overreact or misinterpret what was happening. So legislation requires animal testing for pharmaceuticals, despite promising drugs usually failing in animal tests, and many drugs causing harm to humans after proving excellent results in animal models. This is more like my opinion. So after several years of dissection and animal research, graduates are unlikely to pursue alternatives in their own research because they're so desensitized at that point to the suffering they cause. You think the average person's probably spent 6-7 years cutting up animals every day. Why would you then pursue an alternative, especially if it wasn't common in Australia? So in the last couple of years, I've learned that every single human thinks they are a good person and a just person. I saw this in myself when I participated in dissection as a vegan, telling myself that as a vet I was going to save lots of animals. So every scientist I've been close to believes that the lives they take are for a greater purpose, and that they're going to go down in history as a revolutionary and a gifted individual who saved the world. I've heard this, I can't even tell you how many times, probably hundreds of times. So I think many scientists have an unrealistic perception of the value of their own research, and I guess their belief of the ends justifying the means I don't think is valid. So at the moment I'm making a documentary about how animals are used in science in Australia. For obvious reasons I can't go into detail, however, your financial support is something I really need. So crowdfunding has been really difficult because I can't really talk about what I'm doing. I will show our crowdfunding video, but yeah. So My greatest flaw is my completely unchecked optimism. I fully believe the world is going to be vegan in 5 years, and when that happens, we can all go back to our lives. Until then, your dream job, career, or professional relationships are meaningless. You're continuing to build a dying world. Anything you fight for that is based on long-term security is either based on hope that things aren't really that bad, or an expectation that other people are going to fix the world's problems in time for you to enjoy a cushy retirement. By risking your job and safety, you will inspire those around you to do the same. Everyone has something about them that they can use to leverage animal rights into living rooms around Australia. For me, it was that I was a science student, but I really think everyone has something they can use as a clickbait kind of point. My final tip would be to always give credit where credit is due. Publicly thank everyone who helps or advises you. Be humble and courteous. Organisations are more likely to want to work with you when you're giving their organisation a shitload of attention on social media. Don't be precious about it, and I think people will help you out. It was actually kind of an amazing experience for me because I went in the space of a couple of weeks. I feel like I've met so many people who have never done any activism, like all those ambassadors. They're all vegan, but they've never been exposed to it, and I can tell they're going to go out into the world and just do so much amazing stuff. And I used to be really obsessed with making vegans. I used to have to get 4 people a week, or I would just have depression and cry and be really down. So now I'm kind of moved on from that. I really like making activists. I think inspiring people to be what are you even fighting for? If you're protecting your job or your whatever, why? It's just not even relevant. My name's Alexandra. I'm a science student from Geelong, Victoria. Each year in Victoria, over 900,000 animals die in our labs in horrific ways, and this number has been increasing for the last 10 years. Over the last 4 months, I've been battling to end violence towards animals in Victorian laboratories. I started my campaign at Deakin University with the support of Humane Research Australia and PETA Australia. My campaign went viral, receiving widespread support through mainstream media, including front page of The Age. I launched Cruelty Free Labs Victoria 2 weeks ago. I've been building a team of committed and compassionate science students to stand with me against all Victorian universities. Universities think they are above public opinion despite funding these atrocities with taxpayer dollars. This is a self-regulating industry that systematically frames animal cruelty as scientific progress. The most decorated in the scientific community actively prevent the use of alternatives in teaching, as they are afraid of a generation of students familiar with more advanced technologies that do not use animals. Preference is given to research that uses animals in winning grants and funding, so the bottom line is always a financial one. Students and staff are bullied for speaking out against animal abuse and have been too afraid to come forward until now. We are going to liberate millions of Victorian lab animals by exposing the redundancy of animal research and providing a safe environment for students to come forward about what they have witnessed. We are a voice for lab animals and we are not going away, but we need your help. Financially, this has become too difficult to do on my own. You put a spotlight on lab animals by sharing my videos, and I couldn't have achieved so much in such a short time without this kindness. Logistically, it's becoming impossible to do this without any equipment or resources. These animals deserve better, and you have the power to make history with us. We can't do this without you. We need $12,000 to save Victoria's lab animals. We are crowdfunding it, as it's through people coming together that change happens. I'm going to include a detailed budget so you can see where your money is going. that was obviously Victorian stats and stuff, but you get the idea. Yeah,
That's just Victoria, not every
that's just Victoria. It's about like 7 million a year in Australia, and it's been every year it goes higher. And not all states report as well. Like not all of them have to. So it sometimes takes like 3 years to even find out. So the most recent year we even have the data for is 2014, because it's all through like. Alright, I'm finished. Thank you.